All right, welcome back, everybody. And again, if you're on YouTube, I recommend you check out my website here, www.danceofthecosmos.com. So, anyhow, today what we're talking about is we're doing Rashi's part 3. And what the third part of this series is so the first part we talked about what makes each Rashi individual. Of the 12 Rashis, we went over that. Second Rashi, we went over how they can be divided into two groups, hence part 1 and part 2. Now we're into part 3, which is showing how the Rashis can be divided into 3 groups of Rashis, whether they're a movable, a fixed, or a dual Rashi. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this and start talking about it. All right, so now what you're going to see here is there's 3 different colors. It goes on here. I just chose colors so it's obvious, because if I just wrote words in the boxes, it might be hard to see. So this is kind of reinforcing which Rashis are which, so it's an easier visual situation. So basically, these are these natures. When we're talking about the movable, the fixed, or the dual nature of the Rashi, what we're talking about here is that when we talk about movable, we mean that there's going to be more action. It's looking to get involved with other things. It's going to be about like changing and finding something new, and always looking for new options, and going from one thing, being with that one thing, and then going to the next thing, and then going to the next thing. And then when we talk about a fixed Rashi, we're talking about something that's wanting to work with something for a longer period of time. A fixed Rashi is about just staying with one thing, not wanting to change from that one thing, finding the way that works and being okay with it, and wanting things to stay on that even keel. And then the dual natured Rashis, they are both either movable or fixed. Dual Rashi means that, hey, I'll stay. I'm not going to leave at the first sign of needing to go somewhere else or wanting to go somewhere else. The first option that comes, maybe a movable Rashi is the energy of like, hey, okay, first available reason for me to leave, I'm going to leave. Fixed Rashi is like, I'm not going to leave until the whole thing falls apart, and then I'll make a decision. A dual Rashi is like, well, I'll stay for as long as I need to go. And then, if a couple things aren't going my way and I see something better, I'll go change it. But I want to stay for as long as what makes sense. And then dual also, what this also gives us the idea of is that it can go multiple ways also. It's not just singular and like, because movable and fixed are both kind of singular in what they're doing. Movable, it's like kind of like jumping from one to the other, from one to the other, one to the other. Fixed is about going about it in just one steady long fashion. And then dual, not only is it movable and fixed like I explained, but it's also like, well, I can go here and I can go here at the same time. And especially when we talk about some of these Rashis, we'll really see how that's the case, especially when we start looking at the nature of it. So why don't we start looking at their nature of it? So now, Aries. What do we know about Aries? We know Aries, like we talked about in the last video number 2, we talked about Aries being a masculine sign and always wanting to take action. We know that Aries is the ram and it's initiative, but it's also movable. Aries wants to just kind of always find another thing to do. It's going to keep going, just like a ram. A ram goes after what it's going after, but only for as long as it's going after it, and then it's probably going to go after something else. It's going to go somewhere else. It's not really about just staying in one fixed line. It's not just like, it's like a sprinter and not necessarily a marathon runner. That's kind of one way to think about it. So Aries is about sprinting and taking care of things right when they need to be done, and taking that new level of action, going about it, jumping into things, and because it's very headstrong, and it's very movable, so it's going to be changing. It's going to be constantly looking to find something different to go about. And then we can go into Taurus. Well, we know that Taurus is the bull that is adorned, right? Well, we know that Taurus, it's receptive, it's providing for other people, but it's fixed. It's seeing how it wants to help people. Because like if you think about a bull now, a bull will just stand there forever. I mean, because if you think about the way cows eat, it's a slow, long process. So I mean, So when you're providing for other people, which is the idea of behind Taurus, is finding value, providing value. It's not providing value just for like I'm going to do this to provide value. I'm going to do this to provide value. It's like I'm going to do a lot of work to provide value, and I'm going to do the thing that's going to give the most value for the longest period of time. Not something that's just let's just get fulfilled right now. No, no, no. It's yes, it will be fulfilling right now, but it will be fulfilling right now and for the long term. It's got a more longer perspective of what needs to be done. That's what the fixed energy is. It is about just doing one thing, but doing things with more of a steady, constant energy, and not just like go here, go here, go here. Okay, so it's about staying on that path of providing for people and giving the most long-term benefit. So then we get on to Gemini. Gemini is the perfect example of when we start talking about dual Rashis. So Gemini, we know, is a masculine energy. It's about getting involved with our curiosities. We know it's represented by the woman that's playing a lute and the man that's got the club. Now, what a perfect idea. Gemini, and a lot of people will call Gemini the twins because of those two different figures. Because what Gemini does is Gemini has it sees multiple modalities. It's like, yeah, I can be here enjoying things, but I can also at the same time be actively going out and getting things. Gemini realizes that there's multiple ways to go about things. And so this is what that dual energy is it's like, yeah, I can stick with it and go to this other thing when I need to. And I can keep going at this if that's what makes more sense. And at the same time, it's like I can go in multiple directions at once. I can do both of these. I can learn to play guitar and I can swing a baseball bat. Jimi Hendrix used to swing his guitars and break them on stage. There's Gemini right there, I guess. Anyhow, so now let's move on to the fourth Rashi of Cancer. Well, Cancer... remember how we say that Cancer, it's a feminine sign. It's like Taurus, and it's about it's about nurturing. But remember how we talked about with Cancer, and Cancer is the crab, right? And so the idea with Cancer is it's more of a movable nature. It's about getting in the flow. So what do we do when we get in the flow? We get into the flow of what's going right now. We're receptive to it. We see what's going right now because this is what we're going to adapt to, and it feels good. And then as soon as that maybe looks like it's not working, we go over here. And it's about finding fulfillment like in the heart, in the heart space. And the way that we're fulfilled in the heart is we're receptive and we're constantly changing with our environment and how that is to get our needs met. And so that's what the movable idea is, that I'm ready to just change at any given moment. It's very changeable. And that's another word that we can use for the movables. It's active, it's changeable, it's always changing, always looking for another way. So I mean, if Cancer is happy here, Cancer's also going to be like, well, let's go over here and be happy over here. Well, let's do this because this feels good too. And this is good too. And this is supporting this person, so let's do that. And let's support this person too. That's really the nature of Cancer. And that's how we can look at it in a movable sense. And then we get into Leo. Leo, it's a fixed sign. So Leo, we talked about as being the lion that's presiding over his territory. And we know that Leo's a masculine energy, just like the king is giving orders. Now we know that Leo's also fixed because he's looking at the longer term. This is what the king is doing. This is what the lion is doing when he's sitting on his ridge. This is what the king is doing when he's issuing his dictates and everything. They're thinking about what is going to work best to keep that kingdom taken care of for the longest period. And they're going to go about it. So when they decide to take action, when Leo decides to take action, it's not a fickle action that might change. King's not going to go, okay, well, today, I think that we should, I think that we should build a dam. And then tomorrow, the king's not going to go, all right, well, let's not build a dam anymore. Let's go ahead and build a soccer stadium. And then change his mind the next day on that, because then nothing gets done. So the idea is it's like the king's like, okay, I'm going to build the dam because the dam is what needs to be built. That's what we're going to be initiating our effort and activity into, because this is what needs to be done. So that's kind of the idea of the fixed nature of Leo. Now let's get into Virgo, the sixth sign. We know Virgo's about refining. We know Virgo's that maiden that's holding the grains in one hand and is holding the herbs in the other hand. Well, that right there, perfect example. Holding grains in one hand, holding herbs, that's two different things. There's multiple ways to go about things. Because if these grains don't work, well, then we'll try and, if we're going to try food and healthy food, but I'm going to feed that to you first. And then we're also going to try and fix you with herbs. So you can see right there, it's two different ways. It's like we're going to try and heal you with food, and we're going to try and heal you with herbal medicine, using two different things. And then of course, if these grains aren't working as good as these herbs are, well, then we're going to give you more herbs. We'll switch to a pure herbal regimen because that's what's working, and that's the nature, because Virgo wants to refine things, so it's going to do what it needs to do. If it's a course where if I keep just giving you these grains and that is what's working, then I don't need to give you the herbs. I'm fine being fixed on this course. But if I have to keep changing between grains and herbs and feeding you buffalo meat and feeding you whatever it is that you need, getting you milk, getting you all these different things of whatever it is, Virgo is about that. It's about finding the best path and going with it and sticking with it if it needs to, and realizing that there might be multiple different things that need to be done at any one given time. Now, then we go on to Libra. Libra is a movable, a fixed sign. So what is Libra? Libra is the scales. So the scales is, it's like we're deciding what activity is now. We're always weighing things. We're always like, it's about being fair, right? So it's about being active and fair. So now we can see how Libra is both a masculine and a movable sign, because Libra is about like, well, now we're just going to go, let's see, this is working for me here. I'm doing this and I'm liking this. But yeah, let's go see what's over here. Okay, yeah, is this fair over here? That works. And Libra is a very social sign, and is very much about working with other people and being engaged in relationships. You know, so, and relationships can mean, you know, partnerships with one person, partnerships with another person. And so, but since it's the scales, it's about like, okay, it's always constantly seeing what's going on here. What's, okay, this way to even this time. Well, let's see, it's changed a little bit. And it's realizing that this is a very changing marketplace of life. And everything is always changing and always kind of adjusting. And we always have to really do what we can to find value, taking action to find value, especially in regards with other people in mind. So, I mean, when you're working with other people, it's like, well, we might have to change our path because this is what everybody else is telling me I should do this. Oh, and I'm going to listen to this person. They're saying do this. Oh, this person's saying do this. Okay, let's do that. Let's try that. Let's implement this strategy. Yeah, this all is weighing out. It's making sense. And then we come into Scorpio. So Scorpio, remember how we've talked about, it's the scorpion. It's about protecting, and it's a feminine sign, so it's about being receptive. Well, it's also fixed sign. Remember how we talked about it's like what's hidden deeper? Well, because the scorpion is protecting what's in its hole. Well, what's hidden deeper is something that's very, remember, it's about our deeper feelings and stuff that we're really getting enmeshed with and involved with, is stuff that is fixed, that is deeper. So it's like we're doing a deeper study of what is fixed and hidden and deeper inside of us. Which is why it is a very much it's about our deeper feelings and such. And we're going to stay fixed on the course, because if we go into where we're at and what really feels good, I mean, we're going to want to stick with that. We don't want to change that. We're finding that emotionality. We're finding the situation that's providing emotional security. Very much these two signs right here. Remember how I talked about things being opposite? Well, these two signs are about finding security. Taurus is about finding material security for everybody in the world, and you know, the people that are around us. Maybe not everybody in the world, but people that are involved in our particular situation that we're responsible for. And then Scorpio is about finding emotional security in an ever-changing world, right? So Scorpio is about like, what is it that's deep that makes me feel the best? How can I find a deeper connection? Because that deeper connection we're steady with, we're more fixed, we're more firm in that. And then we get to Sagittarius, a dual sign. So Sagittarius is the archer. He is the centaur. And now here, dual, right? It's two different creatures combined into one here. So with that being said, you know, it's the front half of a human, the back half of an animal. So it's, or the back half of a horse. A horse is an animal. Anyhow, so, and we've talked about how it's masculine. It's about going forward, finding purpose and everything. Where when we have our purpose and we set our goals, right, we're going to set our one goal. And it's not necessarily a fixed goal. It is if it's working. If it's working and the path that we're taking towards it is good, then we will be able to move about it in a we'll stay on that path. We will stay fixed on that path. But if that goal looks like, you know, the path that we're on is not getting us to that goal, well, hey, if we need to change, we're going to change. And that's really why, that's really what Sagittarius is about. Now, Sagittarius is two different animals. Okay, so it's a human. What do humans do that's different? What's a human do that's different than a horse? Well, a human thinks. Human's turns his head from side to side, is analyzing the situation, sees what needs to be done. And then the horse end of the human, because remember, it's not the horse's head, it's the horse's body, is like that ability to move fast and swift and strong. Horses are a representation of strength. And so it's about being able to do both, about being able to see where we're going and at the same time be moving towards something. So that's the dual nature of Sagittarius. Now let's move on to Capricorn. Now Capricorn is the natural 10th sign. We've talked about Capricorns, the crocodile, about finding a form and Capricorn is about finding a form that is good enough that it doesn't need to change, right? And it's a feminine sign, and it's always wanting to fix and make things better for everybody else in the world. Well, that sounds kind of like, well, how is that a movable sign? Because it's and remember, this is where when we talked about, it's about fixing things. It's about fixing things, and what do we do when we fix things? We have to change. We have to move from one thing to the other. But it's not about actively moving. It's not about like a masculine, like I'm going to move here, and it's sort of like what Aries represents, which is like I'm just going to go here and I'm going to go here. Capricorn is about like knowing, seeing things in the world and like taking the actions to change when it needs to. And since it's waiting to change, it's like, okay, so I'm here at this place, and I'm going to change to do this. I'm going to work right here because this is what needs to be done. And then I'm going to come back over here. And then I'm going to change over here as soon as something else comes up. And then if this comes up, I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to go do this because I'm stable and secure in myself enough that I can do that. And you'll notice both of these signs here. If you've been watching this series and you've been listening to what I've said, Cancer is about changing ourselves constantly to meet what we need to do in the world. It's about adapting to the world. Capricorn is about adapting to a form, acquiring a form that can exist in a changing world. And so with that being said, Capricorn is also about making little changes to ourselves so that we can stay that consistent form in that changing world. Sometimes we have to make little adjustments within ourselves because we see what's wrong. We're like, okay, we need to do this, and now I'm better. And then we need to do this, and now I'm better. But it's never about finding one fixed. It's about finding with that fixed way, right? That secure way. But it's about making little manipulations and changes constantly involved. And but it's never involved in one fixated way. And so that's kind of how Capricorn is a movable sign. Now let's get into Aquarius now. Aquarius is a fixed sign. So Aquarius, now we're looking at the man that's holding a pitcher on his shoulder that's tilting forward, water pouring in and pouring out forward. And it's about working for a greater cause than ourselves. Well, it's not about working and see that greater cause than ourselves. It's a fixed idea. Like we're working with things fixed. We're not just changing our way. We're holding that water. That water is constantly pouring. So it's about, this is the part that is about acquiring that form. It's like we're always working for something greater. We've got an idea and we're always going to stay focused upon this idea and it's a longer term vision. Because I mean, when we think about working for a greater cause, we're working for something greater than ourselves. So we're fixated upon that one vision. We're always working with that in mind. And so that's kind of the way that Aquarius can be looked at as a fixed sign. It's like I'm always working for something better. It's always keeping that in mind. I'm not going to fluctuate from that idea. Always going to want to stick with that. And then finally, we get to Pisces, the dual sign. Pisces, the sign of the two fish, forming a circle from head to tail of each fish, right? And so Pisces is, recognizing those cycles and being aware, and it's a very peaceful place, and feeling content and understanding. Well, Pisces is those two fish. It's the dual. It's realizing that there's two different ways to go about things, but it's realizing that no matter which way I go, it's going to bring resolution eventually, because it's all just part of a cycle. And so that Pisces then gives you the energy to either go, well, I can go here. Well, everything's a cycle, so I can do this, and I'll stay doing this. Okay, this is working. Well, it doesn't really matter. So, I'm okay going over here too and moving from here. And if I have to move to here, that's fine too, because it's all part of a cycle. It's all part of something greater. I surrender to it. And that's kind of the dual nature of Pisces. So with that being said, that's one way to start interpreting. So if you see what I'm doing from the first Rashi, from the first part of the Rashi series, I was talking about each individual Rashi, each individual one, what makes them different. And then the second one, I talked about the two different divisions, the masculine and the feminine. And then I talked about the movable and fixed and dual. Now we're talking about the three different divisions of the Rashis. And so what the movable, fixed, and dual really give us the nature of. See, what I was doing was I was explaining it. I was tying in how movable and fixed and dual can work with the qualities that are already there, the representations or the images of each Rashi, and the energy that it kind of represents. Now, where movable, fixed, and dual can really make a difference once we start talking about when we're really looking at charts, and let's say you're assessing somebody's love life. Say they've got all their things that are representing love life and movable signs. Well, guess what? This is a person that's probably going to want to have a lot of different relationships. Or if this person is married, this isn't the type of person that's just like, I'm going to go home from work. Let's say if it's a fixed, if you're in a relationship in the fixed Rashi and you're married in a fixed Rashi, you're going to be like, you're going to want everything to be the same like every day. It's going to be one day. It's going to be the routine. You're going to feel more comfortable when you're in a routine. So if you have all your marriage and love factors and partner factors in the fixed sign in your marriage, you're going to be more about everything's going to be the same. I'm going to come home. I go to work at 9. I go home at 5. I have dinner at 6. I see my wife. And on the weekends, we go to the mountains and we go to the same camp. We go camping every third week of July or every July 4th or something like that. It's a very, very fixed and it's a very set nature. Now, a movable doesn't just mean that you're necessarily going to change partners all the time. That doesn't mean that you're just, movable signs, the person will never get married. That's not the case. It doesn't mean they'll never get married. What it means, or that they'll never settle down. Sometimes that's the case. What it's more about is that they're going to want variety in their relationships. It's like they're going to want to be spontaneous. They're going to want to do different things. They're going to be like, well, we did that last week. Why don't we do that this week? Why don't we go, hey, how about we go to dinner tonight? We cook dinner every night. Let's do this. Yeah, and then let's do, we did Indian food last night. Oh, let's do, Italian food tonight, or hey, let's go to the movies. It's not about, a fixed person that goes to have Italian food has Italian food every Tuesday. They go to the movies every Thursday. It's very fixed. It's very predictable. Movable, it's like, yeah, it can be different. Hey, I'm going to be getting off a little early today. Great. Yeah. Hey, let's go up into let's go on a date. Let's go on a hiking date. Yeah, it sounds great. And then dual signs, are about like obviously, it's about, yeah, well, for a certain period of time I'm fixed, a certain period of time I like to do that. And then all of a sudden there's a time when I realize that, we can do other things too. You want to do that? Yeah, we can do that too. That's a great idea. Let's change that up and let's be a little spontaneous at times. And, it's about doing two different things at the same time, and realizing that, hey, there's two ways we can do. I can be fixed in what I do. We do dinner every day, but let's mix up the dinner that we cook every day. Let's cook something different every day. So that's kind of the nature of the dual, is it can be movable within fixed. And so that's kind of the way to look at these signs. Another way to really use this energy the most, especially when we get into astrology, it's really important to keep the idea of movable, fixed, and dual. So if you're talking about something like career, you'll know if a person, you can get an idea maybe of what kind of career they will like, because they're not going to want, I mean, if they're asking about like, hey, what do you think I should do? Should I get into this business job where I'm meeting with lots of people all the time and, I have to fly and travel, or should I get this desk job? Well, if they've got a lot of stuff in movable signs, it just makes more sense for you to tell them, maybe to get the, all their career factors are in movable signs, and maybe it makes sense for them to have, the traveling job. So that's just a way to use these, and always keep these in mind. These are very important things. They're very easy to overlook, and sometimes when you're looking at charts and you bring this into your consciousness, or it just springs up in your consciousness to direct you to use this technique, which is the best way to use a technique, then you'll get so much information out of it. Like, oh yeah, that's right, it's an immovable sign. Yeah, I bet they like to do this and this and this because of that, and make a lot of changes and stuff. So anyhow, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you find this valuable, and namaste.